Well, I thought a heads up for the Ozarks was justified. There are actually three different things going on. Probably the most important that covers a lot of the area is the very heavy rainfall that's expected. This is the quantitative precipitation forecast for the rest of tonight through tomorrow, Friday, and then Saturday. Actually, I think this goes up to Sunday morning at 7 a.m. But this is an extensively large and very heavy rain producing situation that we're in. I'll show you some of the model data in a minute. But this area of yellow right here is 10 inches of rain expected in that day, 2.5 day period. That's surrounded by a 7-inch area, and that gets into West Plains, Mountain Home, almost into Harrison, Arkansas, and then it decreases rapidly as you go to the northwest. But all of the Ozarks, as a practical matter, will get at least 2 inches of rain. So across the Ozarks, probably about 2 to as much as 7 inches of rain over that period. Not surprisingly, a flash flood watch, or a flood watch actually, is in effect for that area. Basically along I-44 and areas south and southeast of that area, covering much of what you just saw with the bullseye of that high precipitation forecast. So, it is going to fall more slowly than a flash flood situation. There may be flash flood situations in this, don't get me wrong, but a flood watch means that the levels are just going to rise slowly, not only during the rain, but for days afterward. That's the difference. A flash flood is just how it sounds. Happens very quickly. And again, that could happen in some of your heavier cells, but this is generally just a high water situation, basically. So be advised, and if you're traveling south, obviously, or southeast toward Memphis or Cape Girardeau, or more into Arkansas, that this may close some roads eventually, just because of just plain old high water over the traditional areas, and you know what they are, the bridges that have the little gauge on the side, those are probably going to be peaking. So number 2 on the hit parade here is the severe weather possibilities. Now, this is for Friday. This is the severe weather outlook, and it does show from West Plains southward, Harrison southward, over to Fort Smith, over to Little Rock. There is an enhanced chance of severe weather, 3 out of 5 chance. Oops, I keep doing that. Hit the wrong key. But that does get into portions of the Ozarks with a slight risk, just getting up to I-44, Springfield over to Houston, let's say. Again, these lines are a little fuzzy, but definitely this area here is going to see a resurgence of southerly winds tomorrow and unstable air. Right now, as it stands, as I record this on a Thursday, this is all stable back here, but there's going to be a resurgence of unstable air into this area tomorrow, so it needs to be watched very carefully. And there is a tornado threat. So the tornado threat rises to 15% chance within 25 miles of a point. Gets very close to the Ozarks, not quite to Harrison and Mountain Home, but again, just takes one storm. But the gradient's very sharp, so Springfield has a 0 chance the way this is reading, and most of the Ozarks are not in a great chance. But if you're in those areas which for some reason have been hit harder over the last several severe weather rounds than anywhere else, so let's say West Plains into Shannon County and then south into Arkansas, maybe Ozark County, you're closer to the centroid of this whole thing. So that's something to be watched as well. Let's take a look at some model data and see how the rain is going to add up, and take a look at that severe weather potential, and then we'll talk about point number 3. Using the same model, we'll add up the rainfall, and you can see that this NAM model is showing very little amounts, under a half inch for most of these areas, but look how it ramps up here later tonight. We get 1 inch totals as anything purple, and then we start getting very high totals up approaching 2 inches there around Cape Girardeau, south of St. Louis, and then the real activity kicks in. It starts to add up. This is 10 o'clock tomorrow night, Friday night, and then you really start to see these totals go crazy Friday night and into, this is Saturday at noon. So we have Mountain Home, Arkansas has a 5.1 inch total of rain, Springfield coming in just over 2, and if we let this go through Saturday night, you get Mountain Home up to about 7 inches of precipitation rain right there. With a 7.3 inch total. I'm not sure what town that is, but it's just off to the west of Hot Springs. So yeah, this is, and that is, you're looking at an almost 6 inch total there around Farmington, that area. And then if I just kind of let this play out, it gets even higher. So we're looking at an 8 inch total at Mountain Home, And this is through, yeah, Sunday morning, which is that other forecast I just showed you. So this is pretty much in line with that. So again, it falls mostly on Friday night through Saturday into Sunday morning. Not so much tonight, but it is adding up slowly. Many of those areas are actually pretty saturated too, especially the more south and east you head from Springfield. So, you know, they don't really need that. There has been time for some of that to run off, but not all of it. So yeah, flood watch very much justified for those areas. Let's look at the severe weather part of this equation. So this is the North American model initialized earlier today, this afternoon, and we're just going to look at instability first. And you can see it's really confined to where the front ended up in southern Arkansas, and there are some active storms down there. And if I let this go, you'll see what I was talking about in that the instability starts to grow. So this is 1 o'clock on Friday. It's not quite built in yet, but it does build to almost the Missouri border, and that is 10 o'clock tomorrow night, Friday night. So yeah, there's an area where we have a heightened instability right there. And again, it's a very, very tight gradient. So in that warm sector, as we call it, severe storms, there's some evidence the storms may break out individually, not in lines. That's probably at least one of the reasons why that tornado threat down there is a little higher. Most of the people living in southwest Missouri, part of this, are probably not going to have to worry about this. If you're in northwest Arkansas, you're right on the line. If you're in north central Arkansas, south central Missouri, yeah, I would kind of keep an eye on that a little bit. And, you know, the overall wind shear is going to be there as well. So that area of severe weather, that enhanced area, level 3 out of 5, is probably pretty justified. I've seen a lot of consistency in the model with regard to that. And this I'm just putting up here just because it's fun. And I think this is going to happen. It may not accumulate. I'm talking about the white stuff, talking about snow. It's Saturday night. Again, the ground will be very warm, and it's kind of on the line between rain and snow, but, you know, why stop here? Let's just keep going, right? So here's the snow accumulations. We'll just move this forward here a little bit. So I jumped a little bit too much. So that is Saturday in the early evening. This is overnight. This is actually Sunday, about 9 a.m. or so. Any snow that falls overnight would have a better chance of sticking than during the day. But you can see how that kind of comes out of Oklahoma. It's a broken patch of snow that kind of follows along the cold back edge of that last storm. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But snow would be in the forecast. I think we would see flurries and some snow. Whether it accumulates at all, you know, Springfield's showing at 1.5 inches. I think that might be a little enthusiastic because I think it'll be mixed with rain. The ground is warm. And it would definitely have a better chance if the sun is not out or coming through the clouds at all. So the overnight hours would be when you want to watch that. But I'm just putting that up there for fun so I can actually hold up 3 fingers instead of 2. But yeah, it's been a wild early spring so far for the Ozarks and for areas nearby. So there is some good news. There seems to be a break from the real extreme weather, although I will say, if you jumped the gun and planted something outside for your garden, and you really shouldn't have done that, but if you did, just be advised it's going to get cold enough early next week for some frost to form in the area. So be advised of that as well. Thanks for watching this latest heads up. Hopefully I won't need another one if it doesn't change too quickly. I think we're set in stone with a lot of this. I'll watch that snow for you, but I don't think that's going to get too far out of hand. But you never know, as you know in the weather circles. We'll see you on the next video.